Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. It's Monday night. We're back, and I'm happy to be here. We're live. We're national. Here is the phone number if you want to join the conversation. It's 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And big story today, Texas Governor Abbott ordered the arrest of several members of the Texas House of Representatives, all Democrats, interestingly, because there was a warrant issued by the Speaker of the House. Isn't that crazy? Yep. There was a deadline of 4 p.m. Central Time today. Came and it went. Speaker of the House, Dustin Burrows, announced this afternoon that he would sign arrest warrants against any absent Democrats if that were authorized by a vote of the chamber. And that happened shortly thereafter. The House did approve those warrants, and Governor Abbott swiftly called on the Texas Department of Public Safety to arrest the delinquent House Democrats. Wowzers. And listen, this is music to my ears because you know me. I'm the first guy saying, I don't know. I never see any politicians get locked up. Now, yes, I saw AOC and Rashida Tlaib and a few others, almost beg to be walked away in handcuffs, and they weren't even handcuffed, right? I think the cops cited them, walked them away, like grabbed them by the elbow, said, you can't do your demonstration here. You have to walk this way, Congressman. And she put her hands behind her back as if she were handcuffed. I remember that. She was trying to perp walk herself. AOC all out crazy. Anyway, that's what's going on in Texas right now. Democrat lawmakers ultimately did not return to Texas in time to approve this Monday quorum. They've been in a fight to stop the Republicans' efforts to redraw the state's congressional maps. And in Illinois, you've got the state Democrat Party putting out a press release shortly before the quorum in Texas, indicating in a bold and unified response, Texas House Democrats have denied a quorum. While several state Democrats appeared at an event in Illinois on Monday, state critics are now arguing heavily that this is being gerrymandered. And blah, 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 blah. So I want to know what happens, what ultimately happens, right? Because we saw the Congresswoman LaMonica McIver from New Jersey. She shoved the bleep out of a Customs and Border Protection officer, an ICE person, and she was brought up on charges, and now they've ousted Alina Habba. They're trying to do all sorts of things. So they don't like to get arrested, the politicians. Bob Menendez got locked up. And I don't know what type of retribution he's planned. I think he's been pretty much neutralized. I think his biggest game plan is going to be getting himself out of jail. But the big question is, will these charges stick? Right? Because I am that guy. I am the naysayer that believes that we don't have enough people in the system that are willing to actively, aggressively, and fairly prosecute people who've violated the law, especially when they're politicians, in particular when they're Democrats. I hope I'm wrong. I just feel like I'm not on this issue. Anyway, here's a quote from the Texas vote. Pursuant to the House rules, this is the Speaker, I'm prepared to recognize a motion to place a call on the House and any other motions necessary to compel the return of absent members. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know that that's going to happen, but evidence keeps mounting, right? And not in the Texas situation. That's just another situation where we're seeing this stuff happen. But in Washington, right, there's a bunch of things that keep coming out, more and more declassified documents that show that Democrats, in particular in the Obama White House and the Biden White House, orchestrated a coordinated lawfare against Trump in order to to have the outcomes they wanted in every election he ran in. And I guess they didn't try hard enough in 2016, and that's why they tried harder later on. Now, I say this based on the reporting that I see, right? I mean, it's pretty clear. Funny Willis. Who else you got? This man here. What's his name? Jack Smith. Letitia James. Joel Baboso Biden. Alvin Bragg. Like all of these people are all over the place trying to get Trump in jail. And thankfully it didn't work. But the damage was done, right? I mean, they literally made it cool for Democrats to try and oust their political opponents. Now they'll claim the same is happening. But in reality, they went as far as doing it, right? Trump hasn't put anybody in jail. Fascinating to me, really. Very exciting time to be alive. So this is the latest with that stuff. Let me see. There was a story, actually, that I wanted to share with you. Very, very interesting one. Anyway, while I pull it up. The bottom line here is every day we see more and more. And the question remains, what will happen? Well, the Department of Justice today launched this grand jury investigation into the Russiagate conspiracy. And this is a good thing, right? They're acting on Tulsi Gabbard's blowing of the whistle from a week ago or so. Attorney General Pam Bondi and the DOJ team today pushing that criminal referral and opening an investigation. Now, this is a big deal, I think, because in the past, I've never seen criminal referrals become an investigation that actively goes anywhere. So I think this is a very good start to seeing some sort of justice. I hope that we get some. Bondi personally ordered a federal prosecutor that they did not name to initiate legal proceedings, and the prosecutor is expected to present the department's evidence to a grand jury, which would allow the department to secure a potential indictment, according to a letter from Bondi that was reviewed by Fox News. Very interesting stuff. A Department of Justice spokesperson declined to comment on the report that there was an investigation, but did say that Bondi is taking the referral from Gabbard very seriously. So this spokesperson said Bondi believed that there is clear cause and deep concern and a need for next steps. So we'll see what happens. That's good, right? That's the appropriate level of leaking, in my opinion. Enough to let the bad guys know we're on to you. Maybe they'll do some stuff, try to dump some evidence, and then you get them on some of that stuff, right? Because this is the federal government. And in reality, you don't got to get them on much. You got to just get somebody, you got to ask them questions you know the answers to, catch them in a lie, charge them with a Section 1001 violation, and voila. Now they've just perjured themselves and it's over, right? This is what they did to just about everybody on the Trump team that they went after. So now the ball's in the other court. And these guys actually did something. So we're going to see how this goes. I think it's always scary to me, or at least concerns me, when we say we're doing this, we're doing that. Here, it's speculation, right? It's conjecture that Bondi's doing this and Bonding doing that, and it's coming from sources. That's okay with me. It would be I would take it less seriously if it was Bondi herself saying we're launching a formal investigation into blah 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 blah. Because to me that says then you know what. We already, that was the whole load. That we're blowing the whole load here. We're launching an investigation. What we got to do is bring the indictment. Once the indictment's there, this is how you offer a stiff penalty. You don't overcharge. You don't put something that's going to get overturned on appeal. And you actually get a result. And I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, there is so much more to come straight ahead. We've got a couple of amazing guests for you tonight. And, of course, we're going to take your calls. I got a lot of feedback over the weekend, people saying I was trying to call into the show and I couldn't get through, so I'm going to invite you to call right now. Matter of fact, I might even do a whole hour straight calls. Not this hour. I have to do a couple more items on my to-do list here, but we're definitely going to get to it maybe in the subsequent hour. But the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Americans will no longer have to foot the bill. My View host Laura Trump joins us now to react. So, Laura, this is something that we've been trying to do forever, and it is finally happening.
Yeah, and this is so great, Katie, for everybody across the country, because look, these institutions are supposed to be there to inform people, and they are legally not supposed to have a political bias. But you look at the NPR newsroom, there was a whistleblower who broke the story that 87 registered Democrats were editors in their newsroom. Guess how many registered Republicans there were? 0. You look at PBS, 85% negative coverage of congressional Democrats, versus 75% positive coverage of, 85% negative coverage of Republicans versus 75% positive of Democrats. You can see the political bias. And the problem is when the American taxpayer is footing the bill for this, and it's antithetical to everything we're supposed to stand for as a society. We're supposed to be free and open, and it's supposed to just give us information. Yet, of course, like all the legacy media outlets, they were not doing that. So President Trump said, you know what, we're not going to do this anymore. And he is finally, to your point, removing funding because we should not be subjected to all of this bias, politically advantageous to only one party.
That's Lara Trump weighing in on the announcement that a result of what just recently happened with the big, beautiful bill and the rescission package. Guess what? See, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting says they're shutting down their operations. And I want to get some reaction to that from somebody who knows the media all too well. Adam Guillette is back with us, president of Accuracy in Media. Adam Guillette, welcome, sir.
Thank you so much for having me back.
You bet. So let's talk about this. Obviously, I think a lot of people were, the argument has been, well, what about you guys in talk radio and you guys in conservative media? Don't you do the same thing? And I think, the big deal, obviously, is that, we're not taking any government funding for this stuff. We're not Politico getting all of that money that they were getting in subscriptions and whatnot. And I think that's the part the public was really upset about. Your thoughts?
Well, it's an unbelievable scenario, and it's the typical progressive notion that everything they like, they think should be federally funded. Everything they dislike, they think should be illegal, should be banned. That is the epitome of it with both NPR and with PBS. If you want to support far-left propaganda, knock yourself out. You can make a business of it. MSNBC does it. Washington Post does it. The government has no right to go to taxpayers and say, you have to fund political opinions that you disagree with. In what public interest is that? This isn't law enforcement. It's not hospitals or roads or the Army or anything like that. It's ridiculous to think that the federal government should be in the business of running far-left political propaganda. I'm so glad it's done.
Adam Guillette, do you think that the end of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting is the end of media as people have known it?
We can only hope. I mean, media, as people have known it for quite some time, it's been a pretty awful scenario. The argument they had for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting back in the day before you or I were born was that, well, if you're in rural areas, they may not have news outlets and whatnot. 96% of Americans have internet access now. There's plenty of free news online that'll tell you whatever you want to believe. There's news outlets pushing any ideas. The notion that our tax dollars should have to fund this is antithetical. It's ridiculous. I've dealt with these bozos personally. Our organization, we do real news. We do hidden camera investigative journalism, the kind of stuff CBS News, legacy media used to do. And whenever we do it, we get slammed with our own tax dollars by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. I have to pay them to attack me.
Love that. Now, Adam Guillette, do you think there's going to be a major backlash here? I mean, people are up in arms about Elmo and Sesame Street and this and that and the third. But in reality, I feel, and it could be the conservative bubble I might be trapped in, but I feel like most people are happy about this decision. Your thoughts?
It's so funny that their prime example of why we need to have hard news funded by the government is a Muppet. Because when I think hard news, I go to Oscar the Grouch. That's my number one news source. I go to Elmo, obviously. It's ridiculous. Obviously, Sesame Street, these characters are popular things. That's why they got a deal with HBO. They don't have to be funded by the taxpayers when the home box office, HBO Max, whatever they're called this week, will fund it for us. It's ridiculous. And if it can't be funded on its own, well, then maybe it doesn't need to exist. Maybe you didn't buy enough tote bags. I don't know what to say. But I'm so sorry. There's no reason to force Americans to fund things they disagree with.
Now, Adam Gullett, folks, I want to remind you, we're on with Adam Gullett. He's the president of Accuracy in Media. The idea seems foreign to me that we're not going to be funding the likes of NPR or PBS or the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which, again, didn't get all of its funding from there, but did have a little bit of a tangled web in how they funded these things. My hope is that we can maintain this and keep it moving forward, but, of course, there's always the risk of, Democrats getting back into power and trying to, rehash this one way or another. Do you think that this is a major issue, politically speaking, going into the midterms?
Much like the Doge cuts, in terms of total dollars cut, it's inconsequential. Sadly, our federal government spends so many trillions that when you cut billions, it doesn't really matter, which is just insane to think. So, yeah, I don't think that many people are truly going to cast their votes based on it, which is one of the reasons no prior Republican has honestly cut it, because they thought it wasn't really worth the backlash that they would get from actually doing it, because in terms of dollars and cents, it's not that big. But still, much like the Doge cuts, even though the total dollars and cents as a percentage of the budget don't add up to be massive amounts, there's just no moral argument for the things that they were funding. There's just no moral, rational, logical argument to be funding this sort of stuff. No one can claim that funding political propaganda, or even if it was legitimate news, is a core function of the federal government. No one can sit there and say to you, you know what we lack that our country should have? Government media. We need more government media. And I think as much as people are upset now, when they go to vote, or if, as you said, when a Democrat president maybe tries to bring it back in 3 or 7 or however many years, when people hear we must have the government media back, I don't think there's going to be a lot of people showing up for that march. I think it's going to be like the Stephen Colbert protest when about 6 people showed up. I think 5 of them worked for Colbert. I don't know. I think it's going to be that sort of thing where some people are up in arms when it's cut, but when they try to make a big fight to bring it back, nobody's really going to care because they won't miss it when it's gone.
You mentioned the government media, and with about a minute or so to go, I just want to get your take on this. Some people say that it's the government's responsibility to provide this media because it's constitutional. It's a First Amendment right. I feel like this is a bit of a constitutional illiteracy, but your thoughts?
Well, that's the exact thing. We've clearly been failing at a mission with the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, much in the same way that we fail at the Department of Education, because if these fools think that the First Amendment, which says Congress shall make no law prohibiting freedom of speech, if they think that that amendment means, well, then obviously we have to have government-funded radio. Obviously, we have to have government-funded Muppets. Clearly the constitutional illiteracy is so bad that this corporation failed at the job of educating people. They got to go.
Amigos, we are on the phone with Adam Gullett, president of Accuracy in Media, and we're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about Accuracy in Media, their mission, what they're doing, and how you can help their cause, which I think helps the country overall. So stick with us. Rich Valdez coming right back with Adam Gullett.
Opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Tonight, we're hearing from Capitol Public Radio in Sacramento. They're reacting to news that after more than 6 decades, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting will be shutting down operations. The announcement comes less than 2 weeks after President Donald Trump signed a bill that will cut $1.1 billion for CPB. It ultimately means some public radio stations will not be able to stay afloat. Funds for the corporation will end September 30th, and that is when most staff members are expected to be let go. Here's what Capitol Public Radio had to say.
This is unfortunate, but not unexpected. This is a defining moment for public media. Right now, we're witnessing an unprecedented attack on the future and sustainability of public media. So we've actually been proactively adapting to the stark reality facing public media by pioneering a new approach to sustainability that relies exclusively on community support.
An attack on the sustainability of public media and a new approach that relies exclusively on community support. Notice how he didn't say we're going to start selling ads because they don't have a product that's worth advertising on. Blows me away how these people exist. You're going to see a lot less of those crappy radio products when nobody wants to fund them. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I want to get some thoughts from our guest on what they had to say at Capitol Radio. Adam Guillette is president of Accuracy in Media, and he's joining us. Adam Guillette, when you hear them giving this statement here that they're going to rely exclusively on community support, how do you react to that?
Well, it sounds like they're not going to rely on very much sustenance at all. No, honestly, that even though a terrible lesson in news gathering and journalism and reporting facts and information to people, what an exceptional lesson in marketing. We're going to rely on community support, meaning we're actually going to have people donate money to us voluntarily. It's going to be a change up. We're not going to have the guns of government to force people to pay for our salaries anymore. Folks might have to do it out of their kindness of their own hearts. Oh my gosh, what a change in a business model. The same way all of us do all of our jobs, where we only get paid by people voluntarily, and we don't get to send the tax man to collect their money for us. What a great job in marketing.
Yeah. I was just made the comment that it's kind of like having a job you can never get fired from, and they just got fired from it. So now it's
they're like many of the teachers who appear on our hidden camera videos. Right.
Let's talk about those because you guys have always done a very good job with that, and the namesake of your organization, I think, rings true each and every time you guys put out a new release. Talk to us about what's going on at Accuracy in Media, and for those that are just tuning in and joining us for the first time or first time hearing you, tell us a little bit about the organization.
Sure. We were founded way back in 1969 in response to biased media coverage of the Vietnam War. Whatever anybody thought about that conflict, Americans deserve to know what's actually happening as opposed to just politically biased nonsense being told to people. Now, these days, since Americans fully, I think, understand not to trust the legacy media, our mission has shifted, and instead we use hidden camera investigative journalism and cultural activism to hold bad public policy actors accountable. So we investigate public education, we investigate higher education, we investigate Senate and House and gubernatorial candidates. I always like to say that it's great that law enforcement officers wear body cams. It's good for them, it's good for the public. Such the same way, I wish politicians, I wish bureaucrats wore body cams. Well, the next best thing is a hidden camera investigative journalist. That's what we do.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that. I was having a conversation earlier about daycares, and somebody was telling me, like, what a good business. And I said, yeah, it's even better when they have cameras where the parents can just log in anytime and see what's going on. Cameras have changed the game. Kids are not getting beat up like they used to. And he laughed. And it's kind of like cops wearing body cams. And it's what you're talking about. Imagine politicians wearing body cams. What would that be like?
Yeah, I mean, it would be like what, honestly, we get in a lot of our investigations. And to your point about education, I have personally been in over 200 school districts across the country in red states, which is a lot because I don't have kids. And what I see time and time again is that these highly paid administrators who cannot be fired brag to us and laugh to us about how they lie to parents and deceive parents and break laws in order to push DEI, in order to push critical race theory, in order to allow boys into girls' sports. To them, this whole mission is a religious evangelical thing. They're that passionate about pushing these principles that they will break the law and lie to you because they think it's in your child's best interest. Of course, you and I would say maybe parents are better at discerning what's in the best interest of their child.
Yeah, 100% right. Now, Adam, if anybody's listening and says, man, I like this guy. He's a pistol. He's a firecracker. I want to learn more about what they're doing and maybe send these guys a check. How do they help?
Well, we're obviously a nonpartisan charitable organization. Our website is aim.org. People can donate online. We also very much rely on tips for a lot of our investigations. You could do that at aim.org as well. In addition, we do a lot of action alerts like many other activist organizations, but we usually do them against cultural targets, people who aren't used to getting angry emails, who aren't used to getting angry phone calls. So we have at aim.org as well a lot of action alerts where after recapture, let's say University of North Carolina administrators bragging to us about pushing DEI in defiance of state law, we put up an action alert where you could send one message that goes directly to the private email addresses of the trustees of that university, and you can let them know what you think about that. And a lot of people love to take part in that. These folks do all kinds of unconscionable things and never get called out for it, and we provide you an opportunity to do exactly that.
Outstanding. Adam Gillette, I want to thank you for being here. Folks, check them out at aim.org, Accuracy and Media, aim.org. Sir, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot, and looking forward to our next chat.
Gosh, thank you so much for having me.
You bet. God bless. And amigos, we continue the conversation with you, the American people, we the people, Open Phone America. We're going to do that for a little bit. Plus, I got a bunch of other things I want to run by you. It's Monday. There's lots to talk about. I'm going to tell you about a few cool things that happened over the weekend and so much more. So keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back to the phones. We go 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And let us go. We go to the Midwest. Let's go to Idaho. We have a guest coming up in a little bit, by the way, who's out in Idaho. General Blaine Holt is going to be joining us, and that's going to be a good conversation. So let's go to Boise, Idaho, streaming the show on richvaldez.com. Let's check in with our buddy Paul. Paul, happy Monday, brother.
Happy Monday. Thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
I've kind of wanted to see NPR and PBS make it through, but their bias is so deep and so thick, they can't see their own nose to their own face. And by what I mean is, I've watched them for years. I used to watch the McNeil Lehrer Hour. Mm-hmm. That's how I got my news when I got home off work. I hit the switch, and there it was. And if they had something like that, where they had a Dem and somebody that was in a conservative slant, each standing there at the same time or sitting there, whatever, being able to do the news the way that they would want to do it if they were just solo there. And then you would have the counterpoint like Sheena Easton, or not Sheena Easton, but anyway, if it was spread out, I believe it's possible to revive it. But the Dems, they want total control over it, and therefore they made it die. It wasn't killed by Trump. It was killed by the Dems. I watched that. I watched CBS for 40 years, and I'd watch it again. But even trying to get on their radio program on Saturday, you have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and be ready to punch the buttons on your phone, or you're SOL. And so they make it really hard for you to get your conservative voice out on to their station, and that's the way they see it. They see it as their station. that's why it's not working.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this point up about the McNeil Lehrer, whatever, Jim Lehrer and the other guy, because I remember watching that as a kid, and they were just funny old guys to me. But I feel like certain media organizations, they see the writing on the wall, right? CNN, for example, right even before the election, they got this new data analyst, Harry Enton. Sometimes I think Harry Enton works for Trump, right? Because he comes across as pro-Trump. But guess what? He's a singular voice that stands up for that side of the argument while everyone else is on the other side. And he's usually talking about data that he finds. So you can't even criticize the guy for being partisan because he's just talking about literally about numbers, about facts, about data. You got the other guy from Kentucky. His name always escapes me, but he was a McConnell guy, and he might be running for governor. He's terrific. He's absolutely terrific, very witty. He's the only Republican on most panels on CNN, and he crushes it. But that's it. I mean, it's like two guys on CNN. Every now and again, Ben Ferguson comes on. And three guys, right? It's such a limited field of people that represent the conservative viewpoint. But they do it, is the point I'm making. They do it. Unlike NPR, where they they kind of like avoid you like the plague. I did an interview with NPR the night of Curtis Sliwa's primary victory in his previous election. And I remember that when the guy asked me to do the interview, he was like, hey, we'll do the interview. I saw the mic flag on his microphone, and it said NPR it was WNYC, is the local NPR affiliate in New York. And I looked at it, and he looked at me, and he smiled. He's like, will you do it? I was like, yeah, absolutely. I said, as long as you don't, edit me up and make me sound like some sort of lunatic, you play me in my entirety, and I'm happy to do the interview. And I don't know what they eventually did or didn't do with that. I think they did play it. I didn't give much. I think it was a minute and a half or something. But my point is, I happened to be there, and they happened to be at a Republican event, a primary win. So I guess they had to interview the Republican who won, some of the supporters, et cetera. But minus that, they're not asking Republicans to do anything, right? And this is the problem. Whereas I think on the other side, there's a lot more dialogue. There's a lot more willingness to have a discussion. So that's that. And the other part of it is, do you think, and I guess this is the question I'm asking you, Paul, do you think that NPR and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and whatnot, do you think that they missed the boat here where they could have done like CNN? They could have done like even MSNBC, at least firing some of their more left-leaning hosts, that kind of signals, hey, look, we're trying to make things different. Or do you think it was just a foregone thing that just had to be shut down?
Well, that's the way they aimed at it. I mean, they didn't take any other stance. They could not have any Republican or conservative point to be aired. It had to be nothing but Dems. And when I did get on the radio and I was on live, it was the time that was spent was like maybe a minute and 30 seconds for me with the Republican outlook. And then the person who was behind me was a Dem, and they got 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah,
and
well, from listening to this show, I do it the exact opposite way, right? If you're one of my opposing folks, I give them tons of time because I like to let people hear what's on their mind.
Yeah, but you're pretty accurate at doing it. You're not.
I think we lost you, Paul. Paul, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. You're fading in and out there, but I appreciate your kind words, and thank you for your input on this. Because unlike you, I have not listened to NPR for 40 years. I used to listen for 5, 6, 7 years every now and again just to see what they were talking about so I could have something to talk about on my show. It's like, I was listening to NPR, and they said the craziest thing. I once did a podcast, and then I'll hit the break real quick. I once did a podcast, one of my favorites, about a segment I heard on NPR. And I probably used about 5 or 6 minutes of this interview that I heard, or this report that they did. And it was about, they thought the dog was racist. So they took the dog to Yale University that had a department that specialized in animal behavior. And they gave the dog tests to determine if he was a racist. And at the end of the experiment with the doctors at Yale, they came to the conclusion that the dog was not racist, but didn't respond well to certain images that had a lot of black. And I was blown away by this because last I heard, dogs are colorblind. So, you know, I think they were making the whole thing up. And as long as I've ever had a dog, I know if you get nervous and you tense up while you're holding your dog's going to get aggressive towards whoever's around there because you're nervous. So it wasn't the dog that was racist. It was the girl holding the dog, managing its leash. I didn't need to go to Yale to figure that one out. Anyway, if you guys get a chance, check out my podcast from a few years ago. But it's, I forget what it's titled, but if you probably, Racist Dog, Yale, Rich Valdez, you'll probably find it if you can in the archives. But really interesting stuff that I think you want to hear. Anyway, amigos, we're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez keeping you company this evening. And I had a wonderful time this weekend. I just want a quick shout out to a few people I want to give a shout out to because a lot of people don't know this, but, you know, somebody I hold in high regard, the great one, Mark Levin, right? He was a radio mentor of mine. He was my boss for 5 years where I worked as a producer, associate producer on his show, a.k.a. Mr. Call Screener on the Mark Levin Show. And I learned a lot. And I was also guest host of the show. I got to host the show plenty of times as a fill-in host. And I learned a lot. You know, I really did. He taught me a lot. And Mark's not the most, you know, hey, let me show you something kind of guy, right? But every now and again, he would just, you know, he'd give me a tidbit that was just like, wow, that was golden. And you know, these pearls of wisdom, you hold on to them when you get them. And he was always very kind and very generous with his wisdom. But he does, whenever he writes a book every 2 years, and he sells a truckload of them. I think, let me see, 22, maybe it was the last book or 2 books ago. It was the #1 selling book of the entire year. And that was the same year that Michelle Obama put her book out, and she was like running neck and neck with him. But at the end of the year, come end of December, he had sold more copies than any other nonfiction book. It was really good. It was quite an accomplishment. And he's got a brand new book called On Power. And the publisher sent me a copy, and I think I got it last Thursday or Wednesday night. And I wanted to start reading it on Friday because I was going to see the great one on Saturday, and I wanted to at least have started it, but I did not have that opportunity yet. And anyway, many authors do these big multi-city book tours, not the great one, Mark Levin. He does 3. He does 1 in California at the Reagan Library, 1 in Virginia, right, not far from where he's lived for many years, and 1 in New Jersey. There used to be 1 in Long Island, but they closed that bookstore, so he's down to like 3 book signings. And let me tell you, these things are so well attended. Over 1,000 people, and we went out to dinner afterwards. It was a great time, so I just wanted to give a big thanks to the great one. Shout out to his wife and his family that were there. Shout out to Mr. Producer Rich Cementa, who was there. Our buddy Christian was there, and just a lot of great people that came out to support the great one. I'm definitely appreciative. And we're going to hear about this book, On Power. If you don't have it, you should get it. Mark Levin will be on the show soon enough to talk about it. I'll keep you posted on that. But until then, hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? Welcome back. It's Rich Valdez. I'm with you for another hour, and our phone number, if you want to join us this Monday night, we're live and national, 7 minutes past the top of the hour. Here you go, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And the Department of Justice is issuing grand jury subpoenas or putting together a grand jury that may issue an indictment, not a subpoena, an indictment. So I'll keep you posted as that stuff continues to develop, as more and more stuff comes out about this Russia hoax, because, man, very interesting times, right? A lot of interesting developments with that stuff. And again, I'm, you know me, I'm skeptical that anybody actually gets to go to jail over this, but not anybody. I mean, I think some people could get in trouble. Right. Again, we saw that with the last investigation where Kevin Kleinsmith, the attorney who forged an actual document to get a warrant to spy on people in Trump's campaign, that was all proven. And he took the L on that. And he was found guilty. And he was arrested. And he went to jail for like 5 minutes, I think. And then ultimately, I don't know, something happened. And voila, he wasn't in trouble anymore. So that's kind of how the deep state works, is how they do their thing. I mean, and this goes a long way. Think back to Valerie Plame, right? When they outed the CIA woman. I don't know, was that 1999, 2000, 2002 or so? Maybe 2004. And Scooter Libby, then I think it was Deputy Chief of Staff in the White House, right? He took the L, and he got pardoned some years ago. I think Trump pardoned him. And he didn't really get in a whole ton of trouble, right? So it's always interesting to me when, you know, I have friends who've done bad things and they get in real trouble. They do real time. They go to real prisons. Yet people who do bad things in Washington, it's like, oh, you know, they don't really get in real trouble. You know, and that's the part. Even look at Epstein, right? Epstein gets caught in Florida, whatever year that was, or early 2000s or whatever, and he gets this heck of a deal. It's like, don't do this anymore. And then he's like, all right, I won't be here no more. I'll leave. Bye. Take care. Right? And everybody was critical of what he was doing, saying he was taking girls from here, doing this with girls there. Those girls made that Netflix movie about all the kinky massages and all that. And yet he went to go to his private island, his place in New York City. So I'm not always sold on, you know, how the bad guys go to jail. And again, P. Diddy, for years and years on end, I've heard P. Diddy did this. He does that. He does the other. I've never been to one of those parties. But when push comes to shove and they charge him with all these things, he gets off. Now, our good friend Doug Burns says, well, the reason he got off was because they overcharged him. They said he did all these bad things, but they had zero proof. I get that. So does that mean that this stuff was all rumors about Diddy, that he didn't do all these things? Well, not necessarily, because we know that he was getting hookers. We have all these affidavits from people saying that, you know, he did all these other things. And he, you know, he's walking away on this one. Now some people say he might get 20 years. Maybe, maybe not. Right? There was a rumor last week about a pardon. I mean, all sorts of things are going on here. So I don't know the whole scoop on that. But I do know that the track record is the same. You either get charged with something incredibly egregious and walk away with it or from it, or you get charged with something very minimal and do a little bit of time and then you walk away from it. But nobody ends up doing major hard time. That's why I'm keeping my eyes on Gold Bar Bob Menendez. And I'm not sold on this, but we will see what happens. And again, this is not a critique of Trump per se. Right? Because Trump is not the justice system. Trump is not the Washington establishment. He's not the judiciary. He's not any of those things. He's the president, and he's only the president for these 4 years. What I'm talking about is as old as the day is long. It's been going on forever and a day since the very beginning. So that's what I'm talking about. Where do you find the people that will actually follow up and follow through on these prosecutions and put the bad guys in jail? I don't know where we find them all. I think everybody's kind of like, you knew that I did that? Oh, shoot. Then I guess I can't really be that hard with you because you might say that I did whatever. And, it feels like Washington's the game of who's got more dirt on who. And sadly, I think that's kind of how that works. But maybe I'm wrong. And I'm hoping that I am. I really am. I'm banking on me getting on this mic and saying, you know what, America, I was wrong. Dead wrong. I'm watching Obama walk down this corridor. He's shackled. He's wearing an orange jumpsuit. Right next to him is Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff and everybody else. But I just don't see it happening. And we know it's not going to happen to President Obama. So anyway, that's that. Now, there's a couple of other things that are happening here. Governor Abbott orders the arrest of Texas House Democrats who fled the state. They went to Illinois, and they're not participating in the legislative process that they need to. And the Speaker of the House putting the warrant together, the governor authorizing it, saying, hey, let's lock them up then, ordering the Department of Public Safety to go get them. I wonder what happens there, too. Now, I'm not saying he's within his rights or he's doing something extra constitutional. I'm not saying any of those things. I'm just saying, will we see that level of enforcement? I'm very curious. I'm not saying you can't. I'm curious. I know that enforcing the law on people that are powerful and sometimes have written those very laws is tough. It's very tough, but it's not impossible. And I'm hopeful that we'll see some sort of accountability. Let me see what else we got here. Reports are coming in that Israel may lead the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip and secure the Gaza Strip, the entirety of it. As I get more on that, I'll keep you up to speed. What we got here, Kash Patel warning the media that there are more documents coming, so stop lying. That's interesting. And former Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle, the woman who didn't have a ton of experience in running the Secret Service, and was in charge of the Secret Service when President Trump was almost assassinated. She lost her security clearance today over all the fallout from that. So I like that kind of accountability. That's the accountability I like. Making this woman no longer as, what's the word I'm going to look for? Powerful, palatable, appetizing, right, to potential new opportunities when I'm former Secret Service Director and I still have clearance. No, now she doesn't have clearance. And I think that is likely appropriate, right? Most of us, when we get fired from our job for dropping the ball, we don't get to keep all the perks that go with it. So I think it's only fair that something like that happens. And what else? Well, that's enough for now. I'm going to pause right there. We're going to come right back. And I want to talk about what's the development, right? We talked a little bit about Dmitry Medvedev. He was president of Russia some years ago. Now he's the chief security person for Putin's administration. And he made a lot of tough comments right before the weekend. And a lot of people saying that, he made tough comments. Trump moved some submarines around, repositioning them. What's going on here? Are you starting World War III? I say no, I don't think so. But I want to bring in somebody who knows that region of the world really well. Former Brigadier General Blaine Holt, United States Deputy Representative to NATO, will be joining us shortly to give us a scoop on that, as well as what's happening with the rest of that section of Europe. So keep it locked right here. We're coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez. Valdez with an S, keeping you company this evening. And I want to get into some conversation on Russia. Of course, I want to get into some conversation with you all, we the people, as well. And I want to always move to the front of the line, people that disagree. And we've got David calling from San Francisco. You disagree with the governor of Texas. David, go right ahead.
Oh, thanks, Rich. And by the way, I noticed Ghislaine Maxwell has moved down to Texas. What do you expect that crooked attorney general down there is going to help her escape? But I was interested in it from the angle that it's like a protection racket. I don't know if you're familiar with the old Roaring Twenties 100 years ago when the mobsters would have, they'd go up to a small merchant and they'd say, oh, it'd be a shame if your window got broke. It'd be a shame if your building got caught fire. It was a protection racket, right?
Right, so you're saying that the Democrats in Texas are the mob?
No, I'm saying that the Texas governor and attorney general are the organized crime, and that they are not going to give aid. They will not. That flood was 2 weeks ago, right? And they still haven't given aid, and they will not give aid until they can strong arm the legislature into dancing to their tune, right? So it's a protection racket. I pity the poor peasants of Texas.
Okay. Well, thank you for your comments, David. If anybody in Texas wants to respond to David, he says that this is an extortion racket and they're getting shaken down. I tend to disagree, but I'd love to know what you guys in Texas think. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. Let's go to Ziggy. Ziggy's in Chicago, Illinois, WLS. Ziggy, go right ahead.
How you doing there, Mr. Valdez?
Wonderful,
now, I have walked across America 5 times. It took me 12 years, but I went to every state in this union, just about, by choice, okay? I worked hard. I never begged no one for nothing. Texas was the greatest state I ever walked through. And I talked to Greg Abbott's machine all the time. I have the White House number on speed dial. But what I want to say is we have got to stop this stuff right now in the Gaza Strip, okay? They are not going to return our hostages. They are going to show us films of a guy who hasn't eaten in 2 weeks dig his own grave. Now, all them people out there that want to go, hey, we're standing behind Hamas and the Palestinians and Israel. I met a lot of Israelite people. They were the best friends I ever had. And right now, I think my President Trump, our President Trump, that I love and respect, one of the greatest presidents we have ever had. I think now it's time to do some mercy killing. And I don't care what anybody says. Yeah. Wait, hold on. Those people are being starved. Hey, you know when you get home and you get a pizza, you don't eat it all, you put it in the fridge, a couple days later, you throw it away, okay? We are trying to feed them Israel. I stand behind them 100%. These Hamusis, they are gumming up and killing and torturing and raping people. Now, it's time to go, hey, you either drop your weapons, release all these people, or I'll tell you what, we're going to come in and we are going to bomb everything. The man...
Right. Listen, here's the thing. We've actually reached this moment several times, right? And several times President Trump has slowed down Prime Minister Netanyahu from taking this type of action. And ultimately, that's not really up to the United States, right? This is, I think, will reach a point, and probably did last week when President Trump said, look, Israelis got to do what the Israelis have to do. This is their country. These are their people. And I'm with you in that we want to see this thing end. I think that there's still a lot of civilians there, and this is why the Israelis have been very slow and very cautious. And I don't know that, it's okay to say, kill them all, let God figure it out. I don't think that that's going to fly well with people, especially when there's a whole lot of kids there. So this is a tough situation, but not an impossible one. So I think that we're going to get the resolution that we need. It's just going to take a little bit of time. But, it's interesting, Ziggy, is that President Trump was asked about this in many ways today yesterday when he was leaving the state of New Jersey, going back to D.C., and they were talking about this genocide that's going on in Gaza. And the president basically alluded to saying, look, I don't think this is a genocide. I think it's a war. And I think that's an accurate statement. Listen to this. Number 15.
Only we want the people fed. And we're the only country that's really doing that. We're putting up money to get the people fed. And Steve Witkoff is doing a great job. And we want Israel to get them fed. We're giving some pretty big contributions, basically to purchase food so the people can be fed. We don't want people going hungry, and we don't want people to starve. And there's some bad things happening. I don't think it's sad. Look, they're in a war. Some horrible things happened on October 7th, as you know. It was a horrible, horrible thing. One of the worst I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of bad things since I'm president in terms of wars and potential wars. I mean, if you look at the one that we just stopped, there are thousands of people being dead already at the border between Thailand and Cambodia. Thousands of people. And I mean, I've seen some bad things, but that October 7th with Hamas was really, really bad.
October 7th with Hamas. And this was a really bad thing. I agree with that. I think this is brutal. So, Ziggy, I think the president is there advocating for the people and trying to make sure that we end the killing of everyone, right? I don't think we want to kill some and in the name of others. But thanks for the call, brother. I appreciate it. And amigos, we're going to get to the rest of your calls and your thoughts in a little bit. Plus, we have some additional conversation that we're going to do on Russia. I haven't forgotten that. Let me give you the phone number if anybody wants to join the conversation. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And of course, I want to thank you. There's, I probably don't do it enough, but the podcasts for this program and my other podcast, This is America with Rich Valdez, you guys have been so generous with 5-star reviews, with sharing it, with tuning in, hitting the top 100 recently. So I want to thank you for that. The podcast doing really, really well, and can't do that without a listenership, right? It's because of you. It's the audience out there that enjoys these conversations that we're having at night, and you guys chiming in and sharing your thoughts. So again, you know the number for that, 833-4-Valdez. And we're going to continue with more conversation from some of our friends and from the rest of our friends in Radio Land when you call in 833-482-5337. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Look at Rich Valdez. He's now a radio host, and he's a great radio host.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, you're ready.
All right, now to a dramatic escalation between the U.S. and Russia. President Trump has taken to Truth Social saying he is sending, quote, 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in the appropriate regions, just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that. Now, the declaration is in response to former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev's comments saying that each new ultimatum that Trump makes toward Russia in pressuring an end to the nation's conflict with Ukraine is a step is a threat, I should say, and a step towards war. Joining us now from the Pentagon is CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata. Charlie, good to have you on, my friend. What more are we learning? Do we know where these subs are headed?
Tom, I just came back from Navy, and I got the answer that I was kind of expecting, which is no comment. And there's a reason for that, is because the Navy never divulges the location of their submarines unless they are tasked to do it in order to send a message. Now, in terms of positioning, there are always a few nuclear-capable submarines on patrol, but they don't have to be on patrol to pose a threat to Russia, because in terms of the nuclear-armed submarines, and there are two different categories there, they can pretty much hit Russian targets from almost anywhere.
So that's the latest with what we discussed before the weekend on Russia. And I want to get some updates on that and, of course, some analysis and reaction to that. I think that this is an interesting thing, but I don't know if it's much ado about nothing or if it's a big deal. Some people say it's the beginning of the next world war. Others say it was moving the submarine from one side of the street to the other, alternate side of the street parking. I don't know which one of those to believe, but I know we're going to get some good analysis from our guest, retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt. He's retired from the United States Air Force. He was Deputy United States Representative to NATO, and he's our guest right now. General Holt, welcome back, sir.
Oh, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me back.
My pleasure. So, General, talk to me about you heard this little bit of a report from Charlie D'Agata at CNN, and it was really not much meat to that report, but there was a lot of commentary from Dmitry Medvedev, the former president of Russia, out there talking a whole lot of smack and saying, if President Trump keeps it up, this might end him in a like a hot war with Russia. I haven't heard much from Putin himself. What do you make of all this?
Well, the Kremlin has pretty much used Medvedev as their, go back to the Iraq War, their Baghdad Bob, or the guy that makes the bombastic comments. He's a lower-ranking guy and he can get away with it. Yes, he was once the president of Russia, but he currently holds the Deputy National Security Advisor position, and he's known for these nuclear statements. But we're at a place in this war where really there is an escalation. Germany's talking about long-distance weapons into Russia. They're talking about more money, more weapons. And so the rhetoric back and forth is actually in and of itself dangerous when we start talking with that word nuclear. Now, in terms of what the president said, I'm going to move some subs. Okay, well, America should understand that we have subs on patrol all the time in all parts of the world. And the folks that drive what we call boomers, the nuclear submarines, the Ohio class, and then coming on now the Virginia class, when he says I'm repositioning them, they might be moving 20 to 40 feet. It's not that much because they're always in position to deal with this problem. But what President Trump was doing was messaging that we're not going to be pressured by you at all. And I'm telling you, I'm taking you, Russia, the threat, very seriously. My hope is that we can de-escalate this rhetoric and that the lower levels, Ambassador Witkoff, Secretary Rubio, are going to be able to encourage Putin and Trump to have a face-to-face. And I go back to Gorbachev-Reagan days in Reykjavik. I would love to see that as a method to start to unravel this in a lower way, but it may not happen.
Yeah, well, and I hope you're right. I mean, the top Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, emphasized some remarks earlier today that Vladimir Putin, the president, fully controls the nation's foreign policy and was seemingly dismissing the comments made by Medvedev, who, like you said, regularly makes these nuclear threats, as irrelevant despite his high status in the Russian government. This is according to Breitbart. And I'm wondering, is this like the 1-2 punch? You throw it out there, see what kind of reaction you get, and then pull it back.
It is. There is a lot of brinksmanship going on. But now let's unravel the Kremlin a little bit. So Putin is winning, arguably, on the battlefield, and they're pushing the Ukrainians back. But he's got pretty significant weaknesses in his economy, And that's going to continue to fester, especially if the president can get India and China on sides with secondary sanctions, which should start about Friday. So the table is set. If Putin shows weakness at this point in his inner circle in the Kremlin, he could find himself out of a job and a lot more very quickly. So, where the Kremlin is they believe that they're meeting all of their military objectives in Ukraine. They don't want Putin taking his foot off the gas. So you have that impasse there. Now, that's why I think the two men, if they could get together in a place where they can both save face, find an alignment, get to something that's acceptable. Because now let's look at President Trump's weakness. He's got European leaders that have not followed his leadership for 7 months now and have just wanted to do the Biden formula of more money, more weapons, no strategy, no diplomacy. And he's working on that via the tariffs. He's really put some pressure on Europe. But now he's got to go close the deal with Putin himself, I believe.
Amigos, we're on with retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt, and he was the deputy representative to NATO on behalf of the United States. General, this is, I guess, an interesting and developing thing. Obviously, we have a problem that persists overseas that I think President Trump, because of his statements that he would end the war so quickly, is, nobody's letting him off the hook, right? He's going to be there for quite some time until he sees this thing through. Now, it was my assessment that he got some of the leverage he needs, and I think the reason he's had some difficulty here is because he didn't have a ton of leverage, because Biden didn't leave us in a position that gave much leverage to the country. But President Trump has created some leverage in engineering this deal with European leaders, with the deal he struck with the European Union to have $750 billion in energy purchase from the United States, which, in my opinion, will likely curtail some of that buying from Russia and impact them economically. How much of an economic impact is that? Is it enough to move the needle?
It's a significant impact, and what Putin doesn't want is for Europe to get adjusted to just being the main consumer of United States oil and gas. He doesn't want to live in that world, because the key to repairing their economy is eventually getting back into the European markets. So there's that, but I can't imagine, and it is a little speculative on my part, cannot imagine that he would have agreed to any deal with the EU without the term of saying, and now you're going to follow my leadership. We're going to get this war offloaded. We're not going to continue this. We've got over 1.5 million dead, and your solutions have not worked. And so I think that he has done what he needs to do in the European side, and now he's got to get the Russians to come to the table, despite the fact that on the contact line, the war is going Russia's way. But what Russia wants is they want to be heard, like they were at Istanbul, about what their security concerns are. That's where the sausage between Putin and Trump has to be made. And when we start to think about how quickly this could escalate and how badly it is, that's why when we say inflammatory things, like there was a U.S. general who said, "Oh, well, we could be in Kaliningrad in 2 days." I don't think that was particularly helpful for General Donahue to make comments like that, because what we need to lead with now is diplomacy. Everybody knows we're the strongest nation in the world. We don't need to prove that to anybody. But the stakes, I go right back to where we were in the Cold War that I trained for. The stakes could not be higher. And I know that we're 2 generations removed from having common talk about what nuclear war could mean to this world. But we need to take that very seriously and with a sober face, not a neocon face, but a sober face about what this means for the future of the world.
Very interesting points. General Blaine Holt, I want you to stick with me. I want to get your take on something on the other side of the world. Israel and Gaza, there seems to be some movement there. I have some comments from Ambassador Mike Huckabee that I want to share with you. Stick with me. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833 4Valdez. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4Valdez. That's Valdez with an S.
Thanks for what you do. You have so many people. You ask the questions that if the viewer had a microphone, they would ask that question, and you seem to always ask it right at the right time. So God bless you, my friend.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
And I just want to say President Trump, Secretary Rubio, and you are a fantastic triumvirate in a very difficult part of the world where our dear friends, the Israelis, are under a massive propaganda assault, in addition to terrorist assault. Mr. Ambassador, I've never really seen anything like this, where the Western countries are collapsing, in my view. They're buying into this propaganda. Of course, people are dying and they're hungry in Gaza, and one of the reasons I believe the United States and Israel wants to eliminate Hamas is so some peace and civility can be brought back to that area of the world. I'd like your thoughts about this and this whole idea of about a Palestinian state.
The insanity that we're dealing with right now is that there are so many European nations, so many Americans who are angry at Israel for the suffering in Gaza. Mark, there is one reason that there is suffering in Gaza. It's the same reason that 1,200 people were massacred on October the 7th. It's the same reason that 250 people were taken hostage. 50 of them continue to be held hostage and tortured. And that's because of Hamas. They're a terror organization, and they've acted like it. And all of this time, Israel has done everything it can. They've made I don't know how many different offers in order to get the hostages out to end this. Hamas always walks away, always says no. And for some crazy reason, the Europeans and people around the world are blaming Israel for this. I can't get my arms around what the rationale is, but it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense is right. Again, that is Ambassador Mike Huckabee, United States Ambassador to Israel, on with the great one, Mark Levin, discussing this latest news, right? The latest news is that Israel has approved a plan to take control of all of Gaza to provide security for it. And this would be tomorrow. The Security Cabinet will meet to approve the plan to operate with, these new military initiatives in all of Gaza. So I want to get some reaction to that from our guest, General Blaine Holt, retired from the United States Air Force. He's a C-17 pilot. He is a Newsmax contributor, and he was the U.S. rep to NATO. General, talk to me about Ambassador Huckabee's comments and this news about Israel moving forward to secure all of Gaza.
He's got it exactly right, and so does Mark Levin. Their concerns are well-founded because you have to be stunned when you look at an event like October 7th, a group that we have known have been bloodthirsty terrorists forever. They spawn out of the Muslim Brotherhood. And this nation has gone to war, me included, for 20, 30 years fighting terrorism. And here we are with a media machine that vaunts these people like they're good faith partners negotiating for their own state. The Palestinians have been offered their own state 3 times, and this always fell apart. And so now with terrorism, they need to be rewarded with a state? That's ridiculous. So I think, and then, the Biden years made it even worse. And because this whole thing could have been wrapped up, they tied Israel's arms behind their back and said, fight that way. We didn't logistically resupply them. We didn't give them the intelligence they needed. And we probably could have saved a lot more hostages along the way if we could have helped Israel go in fast, go in military hot, and get this done. But instead, we wring our hands about negotiations. And what happens is you change hearts and minds when you allow the terrorists to pull at the heartstrings of the families who are involved. And they did that just yesterday because they're starving hostages and showing them on camera. And we've seen this kind of propaganda going all the way back to the Vietnam War when our own POWs were tortured. So Israel's making a change. The Knesset has authorized these changes, and now they're going to go militarily get this done. And I see great optimism for some of the opportunities they have to work with the Palestinian people, feed them, and get information about these terrorists.
Now, very well put, General. And my thinking here is, I think now that the next level of pushback is going to be, are the Israelis the right people to provide security for the area known as Gaza? Because obviously they're going to say, you've been there, you've been breaking it. Some will say, well, you've broken it, now you have to rebuild it. Others might say that, the UN or the United States should be involved in securing that and maintaining the peace. What thoughts do you have around that?
So the Palestinians largely are nomadic, and they derive out of Egypt and Jordan from the Muslim Brotherhood and other sects. And they come together here. The Arab states have not taken not one refugee. And they've done very little to help in
Is that because these Arab states are mean, General?
They're not mean. They just know that the Palestinians and the terrorist elements of them are very hard to deal with. Look at Jordan. They've got their own terrorism problem right there under their feet. But the sympathy has to stop. When you throw rocks at Israel long enough and saying you're going to do it this way as we stand outside the problem, that doesn't solve the problem. And so, can a multinational force go in there and keep the peace? Not at this time. Israel's got to secure its security interests, and they don't just have problems in Gaza. They've got problems in the West Bank. We know about the other proxy groups, the Houthis, Hezbollah, all bearing down on Israel. So Israel's now going to get the United States support in going and dealing with this militarily. But my recommendation would be do a combat humanitarian effort and work on the Palestinian people to provide aid and comfort. And maybe we can gin up some information about a potential rescue mission or two that could save any remaining hostages as they take out Hamas and eliminate them. Right. And then they go on to the leadership of Hamas and eliminate them too.
Well put, General. I got to leave it there. I'm out of time. General Blaine Holt, check him out on Newsmax.com on their insiders page. Follow him at The Irascible. Blaine Holt. General, thanks for being here, brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
God bless. And amigos, we return with your calls and more straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez, live and national. If you miss any part of the show, check it out at richvaldez.com. You could stream it live, subscribe to the podcast, all of that. And I want to get to your calls. Let's see, we got Lester, Daytona Beach, Florida, WTTB. Go for it.
Thank you, Rich. Rich, I believe that the success of capitalism today depends upon the intensity of consumerism. And I'm not sure if that's good or bad.
Yeah, well, I think I don't know that I would agree with that entirely. I think what I would say is capitalism is the term that was, kind of invented by Karl Marx in his classist type of equation. But I prefer the term the free market. And I think a market that's truly free aboundeth much. And we're seeing that right now, I think, with people volunteering to pay extra to get imports, like with the tariffs we have. And President Trump's comments that there may be a dividend on these tariffs. Imagine that, giving people a chunk of the money coming in from the tariffs. I think Americans would love that. And that's kind of bringing the free market right into government. Thanks for your call, brother. Hasta la próxima. I'll be right back. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? It's Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're live and national, 7 minutes past the top of the hour. It's Monday night. Happy to be here with you. It's truly a blessing. And I want to get into a bunch of things this evening. Of course, I want to speak with you, all the American people. I know so many people are on vacation, enjoying the summer. I got to tell you, this is the only time of the year that I love living where I live on the East Coast in New Jersey is during the summer. I would love to live in a place like Florida, maybe, Miami. I like Miami. I know a lot of people think it's too hectic, it's too this, it's too that. It's not what it was back in the day. I still like it. I frequent, and I'm still enjoying Miami, but Brickell in particular. However, I would only like to do that in the fall and in the winter. But give me a New Jersey summer, and I'm golden. Anyway, I want to get into a number of things with you this evening, and not the least of which is your calls. I promised you that I would dedicate one of these hours this evening to doing more calls. I know last week a lot of people wanted to chime in on a lot of things that were going on, and we didn't get to everybody. So we're going to do some of that. And we're going to do it with you guys. 833-482-5337 is the phone number. Now, I want to play you a clip of audio. I'm going to get to it momentarily. You've got CNN, of all places, Harry Enton, who I'm almost convinced now is on staff in the Trump White House because he gives so much news to President Trump. But Harry Enton says that President Trump may be the most important, most consequential, most impactful president of this generation. And I have to agree with him. We're looking at President Trump putting to bed like 5 different wars. And because he didn't get the big one in Russia, and we're just getting to the end of the one in Gaza, it's somehow his fault, number one, and B, this is a detriment. No, it's not a detriment. President Trump is kicking butt and taking names. We're talking about massive receipts coming in from tariffs. And again, I'm not even a huge fan of tariffs, but it's winning me over. Why? Because it's not breaking the economy like a lot of people said it would. And I remember seeing this during the first Trump 1.0, but people were freaking out and prices were going up. And I realized that some prices are going to go up. Listen, I went to the mechanic today just to get my brakes done. And, guess what? They're not as cheap as they were last time. And I don't know if it's all accurate because, again, I try to buy parts that are made in the USA from my Made in the USA truck. But every last auto parts place, I think it's price gouging, honestly. Everybody wants to say, with the tariffs, geez, you want to, I'm thinking, where are they making these things? Right? I mean, come on. You can't find an American alternative to beat the tariffs. And soon I'm just going to start pushing back and saying, look, if your suppliers won't find this, then forget it. I'm going somewhere else. And you're going to have to. And that's what it's going to come down to. And that's going to drive the prices back down, that competitive nature. That's the free market in action. And again, part of the free market is you choosing, you know what? I don't want the American option. I want to buy a BMW, or I need to buy the German parts for my German car. Then do what you got to do. But you're going to pay for those. And that's when I say it's an optional import tax in many ways. And some things that you're not going to be able to get around it. I get that. But if, President Trump has alluded to it, Howard Lutnick has said it outright, imagine being able to say we are no longer going to collect federal income tax. Many states don't collect state income tax. Imagine living in Florida, Tennessee, Texas, one of these wonderful states that doesn't have income tax. And then the federal government does away with income tax. Wow, what a nice day that would be to get paid, right? When you're down to whatever minimal taxes there are there, right? If you're not paying the income tax, I guess you'll have to pay a little bit of the Social Security or whatever it is, the FICA, whatever it is that they take. But again, that's usually some de minimis type of calculation that they come up with. That's not like the hitting you over the head. I want 30% of your income, 35, 40, depending on how much money you're making. And I think that's a great thing. I think it's a great thing to be able to keep more of your money, and maybe you just pay tax on a flat tax kind of scale. And if you want to participate in buying foreign goods, then you're going to pay for that as well through your tariffs. And that's that's if the supplier and the manufacturer here in the United States, the foreign manufacturer and the local supplier, aren't eating that cost, which they may or may not do. And I know somebody's going to be doing that somewhere, because I can't imagine a business model that really continues to thrive for someone like Dollar Tree, for example, right? Or any other dollar store for that matter. Dollar Tree, I know, went up to $1.25. I think General Dollar has been up to like $5 for years. And I don't know what type of impact that had on their business, if it really made a robust impact on their bottom line, or if they just, kind of kept the name, but, didn't really keep the mission. I do know that ultimately some things are going to go up, and that's somewhat inevitable, some things. And I think other things are going to become cheaper, because it's going to create competition, and competition does that. It brings prices down. And like the saying goes, a rising tide rises all ships. So I think those are all good things. But I brought that up because Harry Enton says that President Trump might just be the most consequential president in American history. And we have a clip. We got the full clip. Listen to this.
A lot of folks have claimed Trump always chickens out, taco, when it comes to tariffs. Is that true?
No, I don't think that's true, Omar. And I think the theme of this segment is going to be love it, like it, lump it. Trump's remaking the United States of America. We can start there with tariffs. What are we talking about? No tacos for Trump. The effective tariff rate, get this, 18%. It is the highest, Omar, the highest since the 1930s, up from, get this, just 2% last year. As I'm going to talk about in this segment, I can't think of a more influential president during this century, and it starts here with tariffs. He said he was going to raise tariffs, and despite the claims otherwise, he is in fact doing that. The effective tariff rate at this point looks to be 9 times as high as it was last year, the highest since the 1930s in FDR, Omar.
And the effective tariff rate is up from 2% last year, for those that might see the banner there. Tariffs, though, aren't the only way Trump's remaking policy in America, right?
It is not the only way that Trump is remaking America. What are we talking about? Well, let's jump. The other big thing that Trump ran on, right, was immigration. How about net migration in the United States? Get this, it's down. It's going to be down at least 60%. We may be dealing with, get this, negative net migration to the United States in 2025. That would be the first time there is negative net migration in this country in at least 50 years. We're talking about down from 2.8 million in 2024. So Donald Trump has always run on tariffs, and he's run on a hawkish line on immigration. And on both of those issues, we are seeing record high tariff rates for this century going all the way back, well back into the early part of the 20th century. And when it comes to immigration, net migration, we are seeing record low levels, way down from where we were during the Biden administration. We are potentially looking at negative net migration for the first time in at least 50 years. And that is a big reason why that I'm saying that Trump, at least in my mind, is the most influential president, certainly this century, and probably dating a good back chunk into the 20th century as well, Omar.
So when you say most influential, I mean, statistically, how much is Trump doing?
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about this. How about executive orders? Already, 180 executive orders signed by Donald Trump this year. You have to go all the way back to the FDR administration once again to find a year in which there were as many executive orders signed as we have this year. To give you an idea, Biden during his first year signed 77. That's the entire year. We're only a little bit more than halfway through this year, Omar. Again, this is why I'm saying executive orders, immigration with net migration, and we're talking about tariffs and the effective tariff rate. Donald Trump is remaking the United States. Love it, like it, or lump it. He has been tremendously influential to a historic degree, Omar.
That's Harry Enton. And again, I think the one data point that I'd like to hear that we didn't hear there was from those executive orders, what percentage of those were signed into law? And I would say it's probably another record-breaking number. And we saw a lot of the executive orders that Trump signed early on, like the day he got inaugurated, in the Big Beautiful Bill. And a lot of them have come into fruition. I mean, with the Genius Act, the stablecoin bill, the anti-CBDC bill that just came out. A lot of these were ideas that became executive orders that now are law of the land, in addition to the Big Beautiful Bill and all the things that are in there. So, again, I think that's probably one of the biggest accolades that we should be able to give to President Trump. Not to mention when they say, oh, you know, you can't govern, you can't do this. It's like herding cats. He's got Mike Johnson out there whipping up votes, getting win after win after win. Kudos to Mike Johnson, right? Really killing the game there in Congress, getting these laws passed on razor-thin margins and getting it done. I got to tell you, Trump is doing his thing. And guess what? Who really wins here? We, the people, the American people. America wins. I love that. Sir, I am not tired of winning yet. Keep it coming. But some people are upset with that. Guess who? Nope, not AOC all-out crazy Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but one of her friends and fellow squad member, Jasmine Crockett. And you guys have come up with some amazing nicknames for Jasmine Crockett. But she says Trump is a piece of bleep. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
You have given us the voice of hope. You give us hope, and we thank you so much for that. You make things seem brighter.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
You're kind of at the heartbeat of America. You sit there in this radio studio, and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one
Call
room.
now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, getting to your calls. I see calls are lined up from Atlanta, Georgia, Hotlanta, the A. We got Evergreen, Montana, Springfield, Illinois, and more that are ringing in. I'm about to get to you in a moment. But first, I just told you how Harry Enton just called President Trump the most influential president of this generation. And guess what? Jasmine Crockett thinks he's a POS. Now, she serves on the Judiciary Committee, so she thinks that she can do whatever she wants. And guess what? She's in Congress. If she has a problem with something, she can get a hearing going on. She can ask a lot of questions. Guess what else they can do? They can make a law, right? Everything she's complaining about, she has the ability to change. She can have it put into committee. She can have everything done. But I want you to hear what she said over the weekend. Check this out.
So again, serving on the Judiciary Committee, there are bills that we have put into place. We need to have some real guardrails around the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court has paved the way for half the stuff that we see that's going on. Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Okay, we know that. Yes. He is. But in a functioning democracy, he still would not be able to get away with this. But he's been able to get away with this because the House Republicans are complicit. He's been able to get away with this because Senate Republicans are complicit. But most importantly, the courts, especially the Supreme Court, is complicit. And so I think one of the places that we have to start is we are absolutely, they are the highest court in the land, and they have no ethics guardrails. Now you go down to the lower courts and they do. How much sense does that make? When we know that they're taking money, we have the paper trail, and they refuse to put guardrails on themselves, so it's time for us to do it for them. So for me, that is absolutely one of the surefire ways that we can protect our democracy is if we put some guardrails on them.
That's Jasmine Crockett wanting to put guardrails on the Supreme Court. Now, again, I say, Jasmine Crockett, you've got all the ability to do whatever you want, right? You're a member of Congress. You're on the Judiciary Committee. Why wouldn't Jasmine Crockett, who I'm going to say is a cutie with a tude-e, right? She's got some attitude. Why wouldn't she put forward a bill that, or at least bring it to committee and see if she can get a vote on it and get it out of committee so that she can get a whole floor vote on it, with her caucus, and then bring it, to the minority leader and have him bring it to the speaker and let's have a vote on this. If this is something that needs to be done, go for it, right? I don't think anybody would stop you if it was a good thing. The problem is, I don't see her making that effort. I just see her talking a lot of smack, all talk and no action. The other thing that they can do is they can win some elections and make sure their people win. They can get a majority so that they can get stuff passed. I mean, that's literally the name of the game. Politics is about influencing the balance of power. And she doesn't seem to be doing it, but she does talk a good one. Now, I'm curious to know, of course, they're always coming out. This is about one person, and this, in my opinion, is about race. This is about them not liking the black justice, the first black justice on the Supreme Court there, Clarence Thomas. They don't like him. They don't like him at all. Every time there's an attack on a member of the Supreme Court, it always somehow falls right back to him, saying that he's taking bribes, he's doing this, he's doing that. And every time he fills out his ethics forms, and there's never a problem. Why is that? Because the guy goes on vacation with friends. He has friends that have done well. Guess what? He's done well, too. He's the United States Supreme Court Justice. Now, listen, some people, you're free to do what you want with your life, right? I've never criticized Barack Obama for the company he keeps. I'm sure he's a guy that did well. He's a president. If he hangs out with some rich people, what am I going to do? Say, oh, he's around all these billionaires. If Clarence Thomas has a rich friend that says, hey, look, I got a yacht, I got a private island, I got this, I got that, I got a beach house and whatever. Anytime you and your wife, Ginny, want it, go ahead, enjoy. I have to now presume that Clarence Thomas is somehow corrupt because he has rich friends. This is not how that works. We never presumed that any of the Democrats were corrupt when they were doing the same stuff. So this is political theater, in my opinion, and Jasmine Crockett's all upset. Anyway, we got a lot of calls. John in San Diego, KSFO. Tammy in Naples, Florida, WGCU. My producer just told me that I've got about 40 seconds before we take a pause here, so we're going to come right back, and we're going to go to all of your calls, a straight half hour of calls. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. We're going to get to every last one of you since we have a good amount of time. And I'm looking forward to speaking with everyone. So keep it locked right here. It's Rich Valdez. Check out the website, richvaldez.com. And Florida, California, Illinois, Montana, Georgia, and everybody else that's calling in, we're going to get to you momentarily. You know who I don't see? I don't see Oregon on there. I don't see New York on there. Where's Chicago? Come on, people. Let's go. 833-482-5337. I'm Rich Valdez.
Now, 833-4-Valdez. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-Valdez. That's Valdez with an S.
Well, first of all, let's understand why Donald Trump is asking for 5 more Republican seats out of Texas. It's because his policies, especially his economic policies, have been so bad, right? The prior guest referenced a big, beautiful bill. Wait till people start losing their health care and their health care costs go up, right? That if Republicans were confident on their policy agenda, they'd be eager to defend it with the people and to defend it at the ballot box next November, but they know they're in trouble. And so they're trying to rig the system to hold on to power next November. That's what this redistricting move is really about.
So redistricting in many places, right? And this has been going on for a long time. But right now it's happening in Texas, and it's going to go in favor of the Republicans. Democrats are upset. They're not showing up to vote. The governor of Texas says we're going to have to lock you up if you don't show up and do your job. And because the speaker, demanded that they come and vote and do what they have to do. And, of course, they said, no, you know what? We're going to Illinois. We're going to go to Illinois, and we're going to talk smack about Trump and call him a POS like Jasmine Crockett just did. So that's what's going on right there. I want to get your thoughts, calls, and reaction to everything going on in America at night. We're talking about everything from breaking news to what's going on coming out of the White House to what's happening in Congress and so much more. Let me see. Where are we going? We're going to start with Tim. Tim is calling us from Springfield, Illinois on WLS. Go right ahead.
Hey, how's it going?
Wonderful. Thank you, Tim. Go right ahead.
Thanks for taking my call. On this gerrymandering thing, I lived a lifelong Illinois, and I was born in Chicago, but I was only down there for a year, moved to Springfield, and been here my whole life. And I've been praying to God for, what's happening now. It's unbelievable. Like, I'm filled with hope.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and you're talking about Trump getting elected or Governor Pritzker being there?
Well, Governor Pritzker and the gerrymandering that they've been doing my whole life. I mean, I remember hearing about this years.
Yeah, I got you. And I think we just lost him. The deep state got him. But thank you. You're right. Gerrymandering is a thing, and it's not a new thing. It's a thing that's there. Let us go. Let's go over here to who was next up in line. Todd, calling us from Atlanta, Georgia, WGKA. Todd, go right ahead, sir.
Hey, good evening, Rich. Enjoying your show. I just wanted to touch on a few things. First of all, the Russiagate. Now that your friend Kash Patel has declassified so much information, I think John Durham should testify before Congress again and give the full story this time, not just what he was allowed to report. And regarding Gaza, I think France and the UK, Spain, and Canada recognizing a PLO state, that is globalizing the Intifada. And your guest, the general, mentioned that Hamas was a spawn of the Muslim Brotherhood. And I believe the Muslim Brotherhood visited Obama almost 3 dozen times when he was in office. And
ain't that something?
Lastly about Texas, I got to tell your boy David in San Francisco that only cowards and crooks run away. So.
Yeah, a good point, Todd. Listen, all good points. And you're right. I think Durham should come back in the hot seat. I'm sure we'll probably hear from him again now that, like you said, there's stuff that he can talk about that he wasn't able to talk about before. And I'm sure if there's any value to that, we're going to see him testifying on those things. Todd, thanks for your call, brother. I appreciate it. Very, very insightful stuff. Let us continue. I want to go to Tommy. He's calling us from Naples, Florida, WENG. Tommy, go right ahead.
Rich, how are you? We just want to say thank you for the great work you and your staff do every day. As long as you do it, we will always listen. First of all, I'd like to just say this. What a disgrace Jasmine Crockett is, as well as many others, to our great Republic of the United States of America. And I only hope and pray that the left keeps up the rhetoric and false narrative that they spew. And again, I just want to say thank you to all you and what you do, and God bless you, and God bless America.
Tommy, very kind of you. Thank you very much. And I appreciate it. And listen, I think that you're right. I say it all the time. I think I would love to see AOC run for president. And this is why I'm not as afraid of Mamdani as a lot of people are, because this madman, it's clear and it's evident that he's nuts. And it doesn't mean he can't get elected, but it does mean that he's not hiding. And when people don't hide, you can put them on full display using their own words. Play the tape right back to the people and say, look, I didn't say it. He said it. And I think we're going to see a lot of that come this September from the Sliwa campaign and from the media in general. I think when the media covers the race, they're going to have no choice but to say he wants to privatize bodegas. He wants to privatize, not privatize, he wants public control, right? He wants the government to seize the means of production. And this is right out of the book, the Communist Manifesto. So, Tommy, again, I think you're on point right there. WENG, thanks for the call, brother. Let me see. Where do we go? Roseburg, Oregon. Go right ahead, Doug. KQEN.
I do this clearly, okay? I'm talking about the Democrats leaving the state of Texas.
Yep.
Well, about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, the Republicans did the same thing in the state of Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
They just vacated because they didn't want to vote on anything, so they didn't have a quorum.
Was there a redistricting going on?
No,
Did
there
we get
wasn't
a bunch of new Republicans?
But it's not a redistricting, but it was something that the Republicans did not want to vote on for whatever reason. Now, keep in mind, Oregon is a strictly Democrat state.
Sure. Yeah.
So
very familiar.
And then they all ended. They came back. The Republicans came back to the state, and then on the very next ballot, the Democrats put on the Oregon state ballot that if somebody leaves the state, a legislator leaves the state, comes back, they cannot return to office again for during the next re-election cycle.
I guess that's why they probably didn't get arrested like they're trying to do in Texas, because they didn't have the law on the books that way. Listen, politics is politics, and we're going to see this happen time and again. Like I said, I'm curious to see if anybody even gets locked up, right? To me, it's a show, and I think Governor Abbott is using his show of strength to meet their show that they're putting on. It's a tap dance show they don't want to play, and it's the obfuscation game. I don't know who wins here, but thanks for your call, Doug. I appreciate it. Roseburg, Oregon, KQEN. Let me see. Where do I go from here? I go to John, San Diego, California, KSFO. John, go right ahead.
Yeah, hey, I'm thinking two things, really. One is about that Mendazi, or whatever his name is, over in New York City. I donated money to Curtis Lewa, but he said that they want to tell all the people in America they can come to New York City and we'll pay for their transit operations. So that's going to make a lot more friends over there with the taxpayers. And then second thing is Mark Levin said, like last week, he said that he told Mr. Producer to invite this John Thune to come on the show and explain why we haven't appointed any of Trump's, appointees yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, listen, I agree. We have to keep shaking the trees, lighting the fires where they need to be lit to make sure that we keep moving. And it's easy to get caught up. I understand it's easy to get caught up because politics is like anything else, but really it's that expenditure of influence that you have. Some people don't want to push things forward because they're like, you know what? We just asked for a bunch of favors and I owe a bunch of favors with the big, beautiful bill. How do I move this forward? If I bring it to this one, this guy's going to want this. If I bring it to that one, they're going to want that. But that is the job. And we've got to do it. We've got to do it multiple times very, very quickly so that we can move this agenda forward. Because if we drag our feet on it, guess what? It's the midterms. We didn't achieve the agenda. People are going to say, you said you were going to do this. You didn't deliver on it. I'm good. I'm going the other way or I'm staying home. Either way is not a good look. So I agree with you. You got to push people. You've got to get the voters. Anybody listening, call the leader. Call all of your Congress people and say, hey, what is going on? We need to be very informed and very active citizens in order to make sure that we hold on to this constitutional republic. John in San Diego, California, KSFO, thanks for the call. Amigos, coming right back to the rest of your calls, Montana and more, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-Valdez. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-Valdez. That's Valdez with an S.
You have given us the voice of hope. You give us hope, and we thank you so much for that. You make things seem brighter.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez keeping you company until I'm not keeping you company anymore. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And quick side note. Great weekend, like I said. I spent the weekend with my brother from another, Mr. Cementa, Mr. Producer from the Mark Levin Show, with the great one, Mark Levin, with his wife, his mother-in-law. Wonderful people. And a bunch of retired cops, FBI guys, police chief, all that stuff. Really, really just good people. And so many Levinites, people that love the great one, at his book signing in New Jersey. One of only 3 that he's doing in the whole country. And it's always eye-opening when you see all these people come and you know, people that listen to this program and saying, hey, I listened to you. You come on right after Mark on a lot of stations. And I love it when you fill in for him and whatnot. And that's always an honor and a pleasure to do. But it was just great to meet people, and I met so many great Americans, so many great patriots that are in the game. You know, they're in the game. They're staying abreast of what's going on. They're locked in on the issues, and they're out there. They're out there in their communities, and I'm talking to all of you. I know many of you do that. You listen to the podcast. If you do listen to this podcast, thank you. If you leave a review, thank you. If you didn't leave a review, you should. And sharing it. Right? Because if you're listening to the radio, all you could do is text people and say, hey, listen, I'm about to listen to Valdez, or I'm about to listen to this, and, you know, tune in. But not everybody gets to tune in. I get notified every day by somebody who's like, listen, I love what you're doing. I love the program. I love the open forum. That's why I like to take calls, not just because I like them, but because a lot of people like the back and forth conversation and the different perspectives from people around the country. And they appreciate the podcast version of this. So again, I just always thank everybody in podcast land who can't call in live, who can't listen live, but does in fact listen, you know, after the fact. Thank you. And what I was going to say was, on a personal note, earlier today I went to visit a friend of mine in the hospital with a double brain aneurysm. They did not burst, but they were located because she went there. She cut her finger. She cut her finger, went to the emergency room, and they said, your blood pressure is really high. And they ran the blood pressure, and they said, it's too high. We got to see what's going on. They did some tests with contrast. They did a CAT scan. They found these aneurysms. And now she's going in for, you know, the procedure, the surgical procedure tomorrow to handle these 2 aneurysms, one on the left side of the brain, one on the right side. And this could have been dire, right? Had she not gotten this cut that was so severe she had to go get stitches, this may have gone undetected, and boom, somebody in their late 40s, no longer with us. And it's a sad thing, and this is how I lost my brother. He died of an aneurysm. God rest his soul. The amount of people that suffer from cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, things of that nature that, you know, they call this silent killer, it's unseen. You really just don't see it happening. And I think we got to bring a little attention to that, right? We got to make sure people know what's going on, get those checkups, and maybe I'll bring in somebody who can tell us more about how to avoid aneurysms, because, you know, those are surprises we don't want. Anyway, I want to hear your thoughts on what's going on in America at night. Let us go to our buddy Rick in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, WZRR.
Yeah.
Go for it, Rick.
Yeah, I'm not a man of many words. I appreciate what you do. I'll make this short and sweet. Trump
Yes, sir.
wants to bring this country back to its former glory. And the people that oppose him want to change it into a socialist, communist country. And I appreciate what you do. Hey, buddy, I appreciate it.
Rick, thank you. You know, I was telling some of the people that I met over the weekend that said similar things to what you're saying, and it's always humbling, and I do appreciate it. And I told them all the same thing. I said, listen, do you realize that I'd be talking in a soundproof booth by myself? I'm literally a lunatic if I don't have guys like you, Rick, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, on WZRR listening and appreciating what we do. So you got no radio show if you got no radio audience. So all of the wonderful people that listen to this program, God bless you. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. And you're right. There is a big left-wing move towards communism in this country. And it's not communism per se, right? It's all these elements of Marxism in our culture and in our government, in our corporate structure, in our everything. You think about how they do it every step of the way, it's never based on merit. It's never based on Americanism. It's never based on, how we help the country or the free market. It's always seemingly based on somehow to give the government more power and to move the power away from the people. And this obviously it should be our mission in all of our lives to prevent that from happening. I want to go to Frank in Evergreen, Montana, but I'm going to take a quick pause right here before we do. Frank, stand by. We're coming your way. KOFI, I am Rich Valdez. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
The manhunt for a military veteran suspected of killing 4 people in a shooting at a bar in Montana is on its 4th day today. Police are looking for Michael Paul Brown, 45 years old, wanted for allegedly shooting these 4 people inside the Owl Bar in the small town of Anaconda. That happened on Friday. I want to go to a resident of Montana, Evergreen, Montana, listening on KOFI. Let's go to Frank. Frank, go right ahead, brother.
Hi, Rich. Yes. You noticed this photo coming out of the bar. He's barefoot on a cement stairway, and with no shirt on, no shoes, etc.
Yeah.
But his feet, they look deformed, almost like a leper, and his hands, they look like his fingers were not straight, and they were kind of bent, arced, and too thin. His muscles were deteriorating.
You think he was a prisoner?
Well, he was in war, Iraq, for 4 years, and then he went in the National Guard. But a lot of these National Guard troops come back. They don't get into a debriefing where they get rest and recovery, in a military hospital, and it's just they fall down and hit their head, in war, and sometimes they don't know where they are or when they are, and it's just. And this guy graduated. It was his hometown, but he was treated like a stranger. But he's probably hiding out in these old mining shafts in this kind of a real thick, almost brambles type forest where there's mining shafts, and it's polluted and full of fleas, and who knows? He's probably got some kind of infectious organism, just like from being out in the desert in Iraq. It's just from the camel dung or whatever. Just
who knows? It's Frank. It's always so sad to see these people that serve our country, these brave men and women, come back and face these mental health challenges, and then go off the deep end, and now they're criminals, and it's a sad thing. Hopefully, we'll get to the bottom of it, and we'll learn more about it as we move forward. But Frank, I want to thank you for weighing in on this, always for calling. I always appreciate hearing your voice, your wit, your humor, your loyalty. You're an excellent American. You're an excellent listener of this program, and Godspeed to you, sir. I appreciate you. Shout out to KOFI. Good man, Frank. And amigos, the music means I've got to go, but you've got to listen to my conversation with General Blaine Holt. We're going to talk about Russia. Have we gone too far? And for those of you that were locked into that, what a great conversation that was. Anyway, we're going to talk about that and everything else. But hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.